All right, folks, and we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the emergency stream. We obviously got a lot of drama in the conservative movement to talk about tonight, and I'm joined by a special guest who will introduce shortly, so stay tuned. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. It is November 15th, the year of our Lord 2023, and we got a lot to talk about. I am your Galaxy Brain host, thevincedao. Sitting to my left, I suppose on the stream, you're right. So, long story short, as I've been saying for about 14, maybe 15 years by now, I've been planning to start a group podcast for a very long time. I actually... The amount of time I've been saying I'm going to start a podcast predates my political career. Okay, it's been that long. That's how terrible the procrastination has been. But to my left is Ryan Manning. He goes to school with me. Long story short, when we do actually start the podcast, he is going to be my co-host. So I figured, this is kind of a discussion-based thing. We were talking about it earlier. He's actually the one who yesterday first let me know about all the stuff going on. So I figured, hey, why don't you come over? Let's do this. You can talk about it. And so, Ryan, if you'd like to introduce yourself, say hi to the people.
Yeah, what's up? Thanks, friends, for having me on. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be here. Absolute honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you, Vince, for having me on. I'm Ryan. Friend of Vince, met here at UF. It's been awesome getting to know him, and can't wait to start the podcast. Can't wait to start discussing this subject today.
It's funny because this is the first time you're actually seeing me in politicker mode.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You literally just know me as normal college idiot, and you're actually seeing me, do what we actually do here on the channel. So, yep, that is Ryan, ladies and gentlemen. And like I said, tonight on the Emergency Live, we do have a lot to discuss. But before we begin the stream, everyone right now, be sure to leave a like. Let's get the stream to 50 likes. And as usual, if you would like to super chat tonight to support the show, and I'm sure many people have a lot of different thoughts on this stuff, feel free to do so. And, obviously, as usual, your support is greatly appreciated. All right. Well, folks, getting into this whole situation, I mean, Ryan, do you want to explain what's going on here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I woke up this yesterday morning and got on Twitter and saw exactly what you're seeing right here. A video of Ben Shapiro absolutely calling Candace Owens disgraceful for some of her comments, I guess, and not really sure what she said that was so disgraceful. But you want to play the video?
We'll do that in a second. I think more context is needed.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Long story short, obviously, Candace Owens has been saying a lot of, and let me be clear, I don't know everything Candace has said, okay? Believe it or not, we political commentators don't actually watch each other as much as people probably think we do. So I don't know everything she's been saying about, the Israel-Hamas war here. But I think the general sentiment she's been trying to get at, more or less, has been that, this is a complicated conflict in many ways. And I think her central point has really been more so just of a stance of America first, which is very, akin to my stance on the whole situation, which is, the last thing we need as a country, as America, right? And I understand why passions are high in the Middle East, and I don't blame them for being high, right? But as Americans, I don't see how it's in our interest to, and really my biggest concern has been dragging ourselves into a wider conflict potentially with Iran, and essentially for what, right? And I think, in many ways, Candace Owens, like I said, I don't know everything she said, has been uttering a lot of those sentiments. And long story short, Ben Shapiro has pretty directly gone out and more or less called her out on it. And candidly, I will say that, and I'm not going to be non-transparent about this. This obviously does put me personally in kind of an awkward situation, and that's really how a lot of these beefs go, right? Because as many of you are familiar with, I have plenty of friends at the Daily Wire. Ben was big in boosting, my Vice panel and stuff like that. And so, there really is no held animosity or whatever, right? I do have respect for both of the people here. But we are going to talk about it. I'm going to, not filter myself. I will be giving you my honest thoughts on the whole situation because, in many ways, there's no avoiding talking about it, right? This is probably going to be something that, unfortunately, because I do think that this could have been sorted out privately. They could ignore each other, especially, you're at a network together. It's commonly understood at a network there are differences of opinion. But regardless, this has happened. It's public now. It does deserve it and requires talking about. Let's run you through for people who have no idea about any of this. Here was what Ben Shapiro, and this is apparently, it seems like it was at a private event, but the video got leaked here. What he said about Candace Owens and her general sentiments here on the conflict in the Middle East. So,
yes, the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt, I think it's she still works for my company. And I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
Okay, so, there's step one. Any thoughts, Ryan, on that?
Yeah, I really don't know what's so ridiculous and disgraceful about, being anti-war and asking people not to be so emotionally driven in their decision-making right off the bat. This happened a month ago.
Yeah.
And you have people all across the Republican Party and across the Democratic Party calling for war that would, in all likelihood, end in World War III. Right. And, obviously I understand Ben Shapiro is very closely attached to this issue. This is something that's very emotional for him and hits very close to home. But
And I understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I understand and I respect that. But calling Candace Owens disgraceful, I don't know exactly what's so disgraceful about what she said.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I think privately, there's a lot of people who, you do content or whatever, commentators, whatever, who say things on a regular basis. I'm like, oh, that's stupid. That's dumb, But did this have to kind of spill out into the public? I don't know of how, necessary any of that was. But yeah, I mean, and I think what's also interesting is, the people who have been saying, and agreeing Candace has been disgraceful throughout this conflict. I'm still yet to get a specific answer as to what it is specifically she said that's so distasteful or wrong or whatever. And, you can disagree with something she's saying, but what exactly has been disgraceful? I don't know. Has any answers on that?
Yeah, no, I have no idea what is so disgraceful about what she said. I really don't. It's hard to find. You go on her Twitter, you look for her opinion, and she's just been very anti-war. And she's not being pro-Hamas. Let's get that very clear.
She's consistent about it, too.
She's very consistent about it. And she's asking her followers on Twitter across all her platforms to say, hey, listen, let's settle down. Let's not make an emotional decision. She said that on Tucker tonight on his show on X, not to make an emotional decision and, not to be emotionally driven. Let's not get caught up and crazy about this. This happened a month ago. Emotions are running high. Let's think about this and think this through.
Right. And, actually, that's funny. That's one of the first things I said in the first video I made when this war broke out. And I lost like 20 subscribers or something from that video, which is fine. But one of the big things I said was emotions are very high. I understand that. But as an American, as a conservative, as someone who is, awake to the fact that a lot of psyops go on, and we've seen the same playbook 100 times, whether that's COVID or the Iraq war, whatever example you want to point to, that we need to be very careful about getting over emotional and losing our head, losing our cool about this conflict, because that type of outrage is what galvanized Americans to support, the Patriot Act and the Iraq war and all this different stuff. And, unfortunately, it's not even a particular shot at Ben or whatever, but I think you see a lot that warning, like I said, that I said on day one has not really been heeded, right? I think a lot of people react to what's going on here very emotionally, which again, I understand, but it's in many ways not productive. So anyways, we're going to kind of hash out the Twitter beef here in a second, but I do want to react. I mean, I have asked people, right? I've said, what is it that Candace Owens said that was so disgraceful? Well, this guy right here, Ian Hayworth, claims it's this. He says, this is anti-Semitism, by the way. Okay, so he claims that the comments that Candace made recently on her show are quote-unquote anti-Semitic. Take a listen to what she actually says here, okay?
Well, I am here today to endorse Nikki Haley for president of Israel. I think she's earned that. I think Bibi Netanyahu is going through a very bad time right now. Support for Israel has virtually collapsed socially. If you're paying attention to the trends and you're paying attention to what people are watching, you're paying attention to the protests. And the one person that I think is capable of getting it back is Nikki Haley, with enough money from foreign interest lobbies. So there it is, guys. I'm endorsing Nikki Haley, president of Israel. Well,
so all I see from that is her rightfully, by the way, yes, rightfully, obviously, calling Nikki Haley a corrupt person, who by definition she is. She literally sits on the board of, what is it, Boeing or Raytheon, literally right after politics. She takes a job in the defense industry, and then you wonder why when she's running for president, she is such a warmonger. She makes ridiculous statements like, quotes, America needs Israel, which America doesn't need anyone. I mean, that's I think, that's a wrong thing for a candidate to say. And, we're really here to white knight for Nikki Haley. I mean, she just yesterday or Monday went out and, I'm sure many of you guys saw this, called for social media companies to have to verify everyone's government ID. Right? I'm sure many of you guys saw that, she went out and said that. So basically, to sign up for social media, to use YouTube, to use Instagram, Twitter, whatever, you have to submit your government ID, and they're going to have a whole database on who is using social media and saying what. Which, of course, what could possibly go wrong, right? If she couldn't be more of George Bush 2.0, here she is creating a national security infrastructure that will be weaponized against conservatives again. But, that's neither here nor there. The point is, Nikki Haley is indeed a corrupt politician. This is accurate. I don't see any anti-Semitism in calling a politician corrupt. But Ryan, your thoughts?
Yeah, if we're going to give Nikki Haley the endorsement for president of Israel, can we also give her the presidency for the military-industrial complex and make her the biggest cheerleader for World War III? I mean, it's unbelievable. But no, Candace is absolutely right. She's right. I don't see anything disgraceful or wrong with that. I don't see that's anti-Semitic for saying that, because it's absolutely right. Support for Israel has disintegrated over the last few weeks here, and people don't want World War III.
Right.
Nikki Haley probably does. Nikki Haley would probably love that, unfortunately. But there's nothing wrong with Candace said, and it most certainly isn't anti-Semitic.
Right. But again, though, this is kind of the general sentiment, not even necessarily from Ben Shapiro, but just from a lot of the kind of right-wing dissent against the things that Candace Owens has been saying. So again, I mean, if anyone has the receipts of her saying something that was totally off the rails or totally wrong, I mean, I'm open to seeing it, but if this is the type of argument that's being raised to label Candace a terrible person or an anti-Semite or whatever, I'm really not seeing it. So anyways, thanks for the super chat, by the way. I'm going to read it in a second. But that all brings us to where we are now, and this is kind of the most recent, development of this entire situation. So, Candace Owens, what is this? Yesterday, tweets out, blessed Bible verse, obviously. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, right? And she goes on to say, no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. She goes on to say, Christ is king, which, I obviously agree with 100%.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people took this to mean something, right? To say that, she's trying to take a shot at Ben or at Israel or someone. And that could be true, right? I'm not saying it's not true, but, all I see here again, as someone who even, until today had not closely followed the drama or the beef really all that much at all I see here is a Christian conservative commentator tweeting out Bible verses and Christian sentiments. And of course, she says you cannot serve both God and money. I mean, one could take that to mean a lot of different things, or who is she trying to talk to by saying that? I would also say it's perfectly possible she's just trying to make a general sentiment. Hey, maybe it's just something that was on her mind and she tweeted it out. But even in the case that it is kind of a shot at someone given recent events, I would almost take it to be more so of a shot at Nikki Haley, because, she'd made the comments recently, right? Nikki Haley is bought out, right? She's paid off. So if I were to make any, argument, I might say it's at that. But honestly, I don't know. Who really knows? It is what it is. But Ben did respond to this by saying, Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes between you and God, then by all means quit. Which, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked to see Ben even respond to this and get involved. You'd think it would just blow over or they deal with it in private, but Ben actually goes to Candace's Twitter account and kind of responds. And I believe he responded to a couple others other than this, but this was one of them. This is the one that I saw first. And I was absolutely shocked that, he's basically calling for a resignation almost, in a sense.
Yeah.
I was really surprised to see that.
Yeah, and I mean, in fairness, we don't know the conversations that go on in private, but according to Candace Owens, there were no conversations to be had
on Tucker.
In private,
she said there were zero.
Right. Okay. So if that's true, then I don't know if I think Ben might be just reading into that. I have no idea, but who knows? Candace does respond here. She says, "You have been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now. And we all had to sit back and allow it, and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion. But you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it. I will not tolerate it," which is a pretty, strong statement there. But I can't say that, I see that and see and not see where she's coming from, right? And I don't think it's generally the best look overall, right? Here's a Christian just sharing scripture, doesn't name anyone, just says you cannot serve both God and money. Like I said, I don't even know if it was a shot at Ben, truthfully.
I don't know Candace's intention with that tweet.
Right,
but
we don't know, right?
It really doesn't seem like it was. I feel like Ben kind of made that post about him almost. I was a little surprised to see him get involved in that. It was just it just didn't look like it was about anything other than what she said.
Right. So I would tend to agree. And then, again, in a situation like this, I think it's smart to, we don't know what's going on, 100% behind the scenes or whatever it is. So I'm just I'm telling you, right, third party, I have no insider information here. This is what it seems to be going on to me and a lot of other people here. And Candace, goes on to say in a quote tweet, "You are utterly out of line for suggesting that I cannot quote biblical scripture. The Bible is not about you." So any thoughts there? I mean,
man, I'll go back and say the same thing. It's ugly. It's kind of nasty to watch. It's surprising. And, I was shocked to see Ben get involved in it and even bring this to Twitter. It's very unlike what I think he'd do.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, when I saw the clip yesterday, from the private event, I was kind of just hoping it would get ignored and blow over. I was genuinely hoping that, because Daily Wire obviously, is a big kind of fish in the online media space. When I look at the greater picture of everything, I think the biggest thing is that I want the internet to take over Fox News, right? Because Fox News, we agree, is the greatest controlled opposition of all. They need to be brought down. And so, what inevitably seems like it's going to happen here is pretty unnecessary division in the conservative media space that just, maybe one could argue was inevitable, but you just really don't want to happen, right? You wish either they could just keep these disagreements to themselves, or if you want to hash it out publicly, I do think there's a space for it. I just don't think the kind of malicious back and forth is what you should do. With, do a Daily Wire backstage, have this discussion, talk. I think it'd be a genuinely interesting debate to get a lot of views, to get a lot of ratings from the business side, but also it would be productive. I think a lot of people would find it interesting. And maybe, at the end you reach a resolution where it doesn't have to come to dividing your company and doing all this stuff. But I don't know. That's just me, and it like I said, it does obviously put me, who has respect for both people here, in an awkward situation. But in many ways it is what it is. So in a second here we will go on. Actually, let me, before we react to her appearance on Tucker where they discussed all this, I do want to read a few super chats because I know we got them. But any thoughts, Ryan, on any of this stuff?
Yeah, no, like you said, there is a place to have this discussion. It's just not Twitter.
And it would be a very good discussion. I think it would be a very good discussion.
I would love to hear Ben Shapiro defend his stance and Candace Owens defend hers, because they're both very strong in their issues. They're both very smart people. And I would love to see it on a Daily Wire backstage or something, but not on Twitter, dividing the party, dividing their company, dividing their followers.
Well, hey, maybe it'll still happen, though.
Maybe. Hopefully
maybe this is just the pre-fight press conference, So, who knows? But, all right, let me get to these super chats here really quickly. LR for $5 says, careful, guys. You will never work in the Republican Party if you take her side. Thank you for the $5, LR. Well, listen, I don't need to work in the Republican Party with you sending me $5, okay? Because, I'm rich now because of you, truly. So, that's not going to be necessary. No, but in all seriousness, I never have and never really do want to work for the Republican Party. That's never been my intention, right? I've always wanted to be a guy in the media space. I renounce the Republican Party on a pretty regular basis. And, I think, frankly, a lot of the things I've said in the past disqualify me from working for the Republican Party, which is fine because, truly, and I know this is going to sound counterintuitive or strange, but I actually hate politics. Like, I despise politics, okay? And you say, well, don't you do politics? Well, I would say I really do media, right? I like talking about politics. I like this industry, but the industry of politics has never appealed to me. If you think the people in the media space are bad or can be bad, trust me, the people in real politics are far, far worse. And it's never appealed to me. I think this is kind of what I'm good at in many ways, I guess, meant to do, is this thing right here. But thank you for the $5, LR. I appreciate I appreciate you looking out for my future very much. All right, let's see here. Small grading guy for $2 says, did you see the Nikki Haley petition got removed? No way. What? Are you serious? Hold on. Pause. Intermission. We gotta verify this. Is this real? Did change.org take down the Nikki Haley petition? No way, chat.
What?
No.
What?
Ladies and gentlemen, bad news. Someone reported the deport Nikki. It was Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley, Nimrata herself, reported the deport Nikki Haley petition, and apparently it's gone. So, folks, I think at the next Republican debate, we're gonna have to make an independent petition. Like, I'll make my own website, and we can use it to get emails for a newsletter or something. I don't know, but there it is, folks. Change.org has censored the Nikki Haley petition. This is arguably just as bad of a day as when Donald Trump or Alex Jones were deplatformed. I think it really does go up there. Unbelievable. Change.org bans my petition to deport Nikki Haley. Unbelievable, chat.
It's a great day for Lockheed Martin.
It is. I want to know who reported it. I wonder, because I doubt it was the regular flags. I guarantee someone was upset. They're like, that's offensive. You can't do that. And they took it down. So, and by the way, I think this is very fitting because this summarizes the Nikki Haley campaign itself, right? She went out there and says she wants the government to monitor social media. She wants, and not for free speech, keep in mind, not in the way, oh, we're monitoring to protect free speech. The other way, she wants you to upload your ID to a database. She doesn't want anyone to be able to be anonymous on the internet, blah, blah, blah. And I think you see what her intention is there. She claims it's for national security. How many times have we heard that before? We heard that in a last presidency that infamously told you it was for national security, and it wasn't. They were also a Republican, by the way. And then what happened? Democrats weaponized it against conservatives. Same old story there. But it really does sum it up. There you go. There you go. That's what they want to do on social media. They want to censor us. They don't want us to be able to advocate for her deportation. Wonder why? Is this the narrative that the Haley camp truly fears? I think they do. I think they really do. So tragic news. We're gonna have to make a new petition at some point. I'm gonna wait for her to get like relevant in the news cycle again, and then we'll make a new petition. But yeah, I think the last I checked it was at 310 signatures. But before we hit 400 or 500, it seems they've taken the petition down. Chad, this is so tragic. Can we get a like and subscribe for the funeral of the Nikki Haley petition? This is so sad. All right, moving on here with our super chats. Dollar for $5 says Tucker pointed out that Nikki doesn't use her real name, so why should we be forced to use our real name on social media? Patriot Act 2.0. Very good point. Very good point. Right? Her real name is Nimrata. And she doesn't use it, but, you know, you on social media, you can't be anonymous, even though she's technically in a way anonymous in politics. Thank you for the $5 for dollar. That's a great point. I'm going to steal that talking point from Tucker because that's very good. Okay. Mr. Rat for 200 SEKs. This is the Swedish currency, but I have a tendency to just call them sex, but I don't know if that's how you're supposed to say it. Anyways, Israel has survived the 6 Days War, Yom Kippur War, and a dozen other conflicts when their army was new and inexperienced. This is neither the first or last war with the Arab world, so no need for people to overreact. Thank you for the 200 SEKs, and it is true, but, you know, what's going to happen is people are going to overreact, especially, I think this is the first time this conflict has broken out again in the era of social media, right? Which is another thing that obviously inflames a lot of the sentiments. But thank you for the 200 Swedes, whatever. I appreciate it. Let's see here. Christopher Alcine for $2 says the real losers here are Daily Wire and Republicans. Thank you for the 2. I mean, yeah, objectively, this beef is not good for the company. The losers being Republicans. I mean, Republicans are always losing all the time, so I don't know if that's unique. But thank you for the 2. GOP Josh for $5 says Vince Dow is an alpha male. Great takes as always. God bless you too, GOP Josh. But GOP Josh is the true alpha male. Okay, he is the heir apparent to Nick Adams. This is so true. All right, and last super chat here. LR for 5 says, does this mean we can stop pretending that Judeo-Christian values is a coherent phrase? Thank you for the 5, LR. That's up for you to decide. That's up for you to decide. All right, with that said, folks, let us get back on here. Let me see. Actually, we got 2 more. Let me just read them. Okay. Christopher for 2 says Nikki Haley needs to monitor her kids on social media. Thank you for the 2. She won't even monitor her kids, but she wants to monitor you. This is so true. Thank you for the 2. She claims, how dare you be on TikTok? And then her daughter's on TikTok. Ironic. GOP Josh for 2 says Nimrata, more like Nimrod. Am I right? This is true. I think I've called her Nimrod a few different times, but it's true. All right. With that said, folks, let us now get into the appearance of Candace Owens on Tucker Carlson. And I'm not going to play the whole thing here, but we'll play where they discuss the Ben Shapiro drama because, you know, obviously a response is worth reacting to. All right, here we go.
You know, people would rather you parrot certain talking points rather than have a meaningful discussion and a meaningful dialogue.
Thanks for the super chats,
and
though, guys.
They don't accept it. And at the moment that they start to censor speech and they start talking, you know, calling you names, like calling you a grandma killer, calling you a pro-Putin puppet, you know it's because they don't actually believe what they're saying. It just, these are ad hominem attacks to dissuade from having an actual debate, and there always should be an actual debate on every issue.
And when they never explain what you got wrong, they don't call it wrong, they call it disinformation, which suggests it could be right. That's usually a tell. And speaking of, so I was out of the country yesterday and didn't have adequate internet access on the plane to really follow this, and I don't understand the context exactly, but the internet was dominated yesterday by video of Ben Shapiro, who you work with at the Daily Wire, I think it's fair to say, attacking you. Here's the video. I just want to get your reaction to it.
Yes, the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
So maybe there's a point in the video where he explains what exactly you did wrong and how you were wrong. I haven't seen it. But to call somebody, quote, absolutely disgraceful, particularly a coworker, seems like a pretty big step. What? And I really don't know the background here. What is that about?
You know, there isn't much of a background. I saw the video when everybody else saw it when I woke up.
No one warned you about it.
Nobody warned me about it. It looks like maybe he didn't know he was being recorded. It looks like it was some sort of a private event. I got no clarity.
So if that's true, that's interesting because I feel like before you got in there, and especially considering it's your coworker, it'd be one thing if it's just someone in a different network that you don't really talk too much. But, I do have to say in many ways, it does seem like a great failure of communication because, like I will reiterate, I feel like this could have maybe been hashed out privately and kind of talked about before it comes out of public out of nowhere. I think just PR wise, I don't know if I feel like this situation could have been handled differently, but that's just me. All right.
On the issue.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, this isn't, the two people beefing here aren't lower people at the Daily Wire either. I mean, you think of the Daily Wire, you think of Ben Shapiro. Mm-hmm. He's the face of the company. And Candace Owens is not far behind him. These are the two biggest faces of the company hashing it out. And you think there would have been something said before all this unraveled.
Yeah, well, failure to communicate.
Yeah.
It's a story of human history in many ways. I mean, you think about how not just online beefs, but how wars start, it's always the same thing is, failure to communicate, to quote Guns N' Roses. Okay.
Issue that he was particularly speaking on, and in what was said, I can't respond to it beyond what he's saying because it's just ad hominem attacks. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's not, we disagree, or I don't think she's correct, or maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't respond to it on a level of intellect because there's nothing that he has expressed in that, at least in that short clip, that he fundamentally disagrees with in terms of what I said. But I will say that I'm not going to respond with the same ad hominem attacks. Yes. I don't think it helps further discussion. And if that was me that was caught on a video saying that about colleagues that I work with, I would be embarrassed. So I think that the video speaks more to Ben's character than it speaks to mine.
Has he texted you to apologize or explain or anything?
No, nothing. I haven't heard a single word. It just was sort of something that he said. And you know what? Ben and I have many disagreements, so I don't think that that's particularly something that's interesting. We disagreed on the COVID vaccine. We disagree on Ukraine and Russia. He has taken virtually every stance that has been the opposite of mine on every issue over the last 5 years. So I don't think that that's particularly
on the COVID
remarkable.
Vaccine. Really, I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
And I think you can have those disagreements at a network without tearing the network into civil war. It's like it's kind of just accepted. Yeah, you network, you have a lot of different hosts, they're going to disagree on stuff, that's fine. But failure to communicate, what can we say?
He was pro the COVID vaccine, I was anti the vaccine. We were all idiots for not getting the vaccine, so that's totally fine. I am totally open to people having a difference in opinion.
Right.
I would hope that amongst colleagues that it would always be civil disagreement, and I would never in a private event stand on a table and talk badly about Ben.
It's just it's a little weird. So he was on the left on those three biggest issues of our time, is what you're saying?
He has converted his opinions. He's accepted responsibility. He said, I was wrong about the vaccine.
Oh, good.
He is, obviously pro pharma. His mom's a doctor. And I say to people, I'm very aware of my perspectives on big pharma, and I talk about it on my show openly. And I think that that's a tremendous credit to the Daily Wire, that they allow a difference of opinions. But I as I said, hope that it would remain respectful and that you wouldn't throw your colleagues under a bus, so to speak,
I think that's fair. And just for clarity, because I really don't know, is he your boss?
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about Ben's involvement. He's not the CEO of the Daily Wire. He is not making the day-to-day decisions at the Daily Wire. And I do want to make it very clear, because people are like, how could you possibly stay at Daily Wire after this? I have a very good relationship with the co-CEOs of the Daily Wire. Especially right now, the acting CEO is Caleb Robinson. He's a wonderful person. He's worked very hard to be where he's at. We have a lot in common that we connect on. And so people don't get to see that, which is unfortunate. Ben lives in Florida. He's not a part of the day-to-day movement of the Daily Wire. The rest of the hosts have their shows situated in Nashville. So we see each other every day. We talk. There's great camaraderie. And there's actually more agreement. There's actually a lot of people that are, as I describe myself, just pro-America first. And I think I've been that way consistently throughout my political career, whether people agree with it or not in different moments is up for debate. But I don't want that video to become a reflection of how the Daily Wire works and the Daily Wire operates, because I have had a very good experience with the CEOs, and love Michael Knowles, love Matt Walsh, Andrew Klavan. We all get along really great.
Well, it certainly speaks well of the Daily Wire then. So it's not, I mean, a clip like that on the internet,
Yeah, I have to imagine it's a very awkward conversation behind the scenes right now. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think a lot of people are put in hard situations. Not just the public host that but the producers, the private people, so I would have grace on the rest of them too, because I think it puts them in an awkward position, and I'm not in their shoes. I don't know what to do about it. But all right, let's see. I think we have a couple minutes left of this.
Candace Owens is out or something. That's not, doesn't sound like that's what it means at all.
Yeah, no, it's a small group of people. We see each other every day.
Right.
Brett Cooper is another one who just joined about 2 years ago. She's great. She's up and coming. And there's a lot of stuff that we're working on. And that's why I think this video is even more unfortunate, because people see him as a figurehead, rightfully so, of the Daily Wire. And it allows people to, speak energy into the Daily Wire that isn't necessarily there, because he's not there on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, that's very interesting. So if we could take 3 steps back and give us the context for this debate, how are you on different sides of it? I haven't heard you endorsing Hamas. Like you're not. No.
Well,
which again, like who on the right wing has been doing that? There are people on the left wing that do it. I'll give you that, and we call them clowns. And I've spent plenty of time on this channel making fun of kind of like the pro-Palestine left and their oftentimes just silliness. But I don't think that's the position of any really mainline right wing commentator who's had a different view on this. I think it's that. It's really just that we want to keep America out of the conflict. But any thoughts?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Ben's coming at her almost like she's pro-Hamas. She's not. She hasn't said anything like that. And really nobody mainstream in the Republican Party has been pro-Hamas. You have some people on the left like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib coming out and saying some questionable things. We'll leave it at that. But no one in the mainstream of the Republican Party or at the Daily Wire has been pro-Hamas. There's some anti-war people.
Yeah.
That's about it. Which, also puts a lot of people in an awkward situation at the Daily Wire producing content in the future of, can they have a free mind in talking about these issues, Israel, Palestine?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was really hoping that this wouldn't be an issue that just tears apart, the American right. But I guess in some ways, that when this war broke out, it was always going to be inevitable, because you have two camps that are increasingly dissenting, right? Just on the general question of foreign policy and how to treat it. So it is what it is. All right, let's see if we got anything else.
I have not endorsed Hamas in any way, and yet people have interpreted things that I say, or actually rather things that I don't say. It's becoming very much reminiscent to me, and why I have used my platform to say this, of Black Lives Matter, where if you don't say anything, they say your silence is violence. If you say something and it's even-handed and it's nuanced, which is to say, during the times of Black Lives Matter, you might say, I don't support police brutality. Who does? I don't support racism. Who does? But also, I think that police are a crucial part of every city. We need to have policing in cities. So these calls to defund the police are immoral and wrong and are going to lead to more Black deaths. People didn't want that nuance. When following George Floyd, there was no nuance. You had to explicitly say, defund the police. You had to post a Black square. If you didn't post a Black square on Instagram, by the way, specifically on the platform of Instagram, and you maybe were busy that day, maybe you were in another country, maybe you just didn't log on to Instagram, you were accused of being a racist. I'm seeing a lot of that behavior right now when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a conflict that I have seen every single person, including myself, condemn what happened on October 7th. Because who wouldn't condemn terrorism? It's obvious. Who would not condemn innocent Israelis dying? But if you then say that it is also sad when an innocent Palestinian child dies, suddenly this is pro-Hamas, or you need to say, even when you're talking about how sad it is that a child dies, you need to button that statement by saying, but that child was a human shield. That's not going to be my response. First off, as a mother, that's not going to be my response as somebody who is about to give birth. When I see these images of children involved on both sides of the conflict, I've pointed to the people that are mocking dead Israeli children and said that they are horrific. I am even keel on this matter, and yet people think that you need to be extreme. So people that have become more radical and extreme are perceiving a moderate stance as not enough. And
because I was about to say, people can disagree with you or agree with you or whatever, but you certainly don't seem radical on this topic.
I'm definitively not radical. My stance has not changed in terms of whether or not America should be involved in this conflict. Whether we were talking about Afghanistan, my comments have been clear. They've been documented for years. Whether we are talking about Ukraine and Russia, my comments have been clear and they have been documented. I mean, you can go back to me even talking about NATO expansion before things erupted between Russia and Ukraine, and having a meaningful discussion. We had troops on our border. These are things that should be allowed in an academic discussion. You should be able to sit on stage and should be able to debate these ideas without using ad hominem attacks to say that you're a pro-Putin puppet or you're pro-terrorism. Even in the aftermath of 9/11, something that we all remember as part of my childhood. I think I was in 7th grade at the time, and I'm born in the New York City area, so this was a very big deal. If a person the day after 9/11 wanted to debate the Patriot Act, it's not fair to call them terrorist sympathizers.
No.
Actually, they would have been proven right in the long run.
too.
That act, we gave up a lot of our freedoms. And I think there was only one congressman, a Republican, that was against the Patriot Act at that time. So it's important, actually, when you start making...
It's very important because literally the same tactics that they used back then, they are using once again. You know, and I've been identifying this 100%. Biggest thing with Iran is the comparison I've been making, which is they are trying to run the same exact CIA psyop with this war on October 7th as kind of the, you know, the shock in everyone's face to push war with Iran. Lindsey Graham has said that pretty openly. Lindsey Graham said on Fox News, like the week after, he said, we need to go bomb Iranian oil fields. Tim Scott, his partner in South Carolina, went on the GOP debate stage just last week. It was last week, right? Just last week, and said that we need to strike at Iran directly. And what do they use as the pretext for this? What happened on October 7th in the war in Israel. And then what they'll do, which they did after 9/11, right? You know, they called Pat Buchanan unpatriotic. He's a right winger and all this stuff. Is they'll say that if you do not support this insane new policy that we're pushing, you know, kind of in the greater psyop of things, then, oh, you don't care about October the 7th, right? Or you don't care about this or that. In the same way, after 9/11, when they did the Iraq War, when they did the Patriot Act, what did they say? They said, if you're against these things, you're unpatriotic. Or what about 9/11, right? Have you forgotten? That's a very prominent kind of country song that came out at the time. And this needs to be called out 100% because I am not here to just continue to repeat the same exact mistakes of the past, right? And it's funny because there's so many conservatives out there who claim, you know, now we're awake to the propaganda, you know, they're never going to do that again. And then something happens and they do the same thing again, and then you see the same people falling for it again. So I do think the things that Candace has been talking about in this war have been important. It's the same reason I've been talking about them, and I've been telling everyone, again, since like the first day of this war, I said, keep a level head, don't fall for the psyop, be very wary of emotional propaganda, right? And you can do all of those things without thinking October the 7th is good or Hamas is good or any of those things. It's just that you need to be very careful about the people in America who use emotional propaganda in your face, as they've done a million times, not just about foreign policy, about other stuff too, to push something down your throat or get you to embrace something. And, you know, so I agree with her overall sentiment here, you know, and I know some people in chat are bringing up like other parts of Candace Owens. They say, oh, but she did this in the past or that in the past or this about her personal life. I'm not really here to even engage in that gossip. Frankly, I don't care. I mean, frankly, in many ways, I don't care. The debate I think that's relevant here is she right about the things she is saying? I listen to her. I say, for the most part, again, I haven't seen everything she said, but for the most part, I agree with her overall sentiment, right? And then as for the beef itself, I mean, my stance, like I said in the beginning, I wish the drama on the internet just could have been avoided or hashed out in privately. I don't think it had to come to that. But anyways, Ryan, any thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I mean, October 7th being used as a 9/11's a great comparison, but it's also being used as a, like Candace said, a George Floyd scenario, a chance to go out after everyone, or a January 6th.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you don't want to go after every conservative and go through re-education and things like that and come after people and censor conservatives because they're domestic terrorists, then you're the problem.
Yep.
And that's exactly what this is being used as by, and you're starting to see attacks towards anyone who's against war in the Middle East.
Yeah. 100%. All right, I know we got some super chats here, so let me go check these out. I know I missed the one someone said. I think I missed the one from okay, Real Texan Politics for $5 says neocon Nimrata is George W. Bush in drag, but arguably worse than Bush ever was. I think that's pretty accurate. I think that's pretty on the money. Thank you for the 5 Real Texan Politics. Hold on, let me go to the super chat screen. Okay, thank you for the 5 Real Texan Politics. All right, let's see what else we got here. Okay, I did read these too. All right, we got a $20 from... Okay, Streamlabs is not working. Vinyl Guy 54 says, it seems that Ben is acting like a leftist, quoting Star Wars, you have become the very thing you swore to destroy. Thank you for the 20, Vinyl Guy. I mean, I'm not even here to comment on that, but I have seen that said a lot, and you know, I understand where people are coming from, for sure. Okay. All right, there we go. There, now it's on the screen here. Okay, let's see. One more, I believe. Okay, dollar for $5 says Tim Scott literally said that the good thing about funding foreign wars is that we don't actually have to go out and fight them ourselves. Smooth brain take. Thank you for the $5 for dollar. It's a very smooth brain take. Because, of course, this is... I mean, we did kind of fight them ourselves in the 90s, but in many ways, this is kind of what happened in the 1990s, right? People act like 9/11, you know, even according to the official, what we know about it, right? Did not come from nowhere. That's the biggest myth ever, and it's one of the greatest lies, honestly, ever told in kind of conservative politics, American education, etc., which is that, oh, we were just randomly minding our own business here, and then these terrorists attacked us because of our freedom, right? And you look at the real history, it's more complicated than that. Obviously, Osama bin Laden, you know, was a reprehensible guy, but there's also a level to which, right, by involving, and this is very important, this is, you people wonder, why are you so against getting involved now in the Middle East? It's the same exact reason, which is, yes, we know the Middle East is a hotbed of radicals and you know, crazy people and all this different stuff, terrorists, etc. And you know, I understand to some degree you cannot always avoid fighting. I'm mature. I'm not some, like, you know, peace-loving hippie about this, but we also have to be realistic and recognize, in many ways, getting involved in conflicts overseas has a very real possibility to bringing terrorism to our own shores, because when you get involved and meddle unnecessarily, you breed resentment. What inevitably happens in a globalized world is that resentment, in some way or another, whether it's sleeper cells or like 9/11, you know, they kind of come over the border, whatever. They come across the border right now, obviously, which is very easy. You breed resentment, you bring terrorism to your own shores, and you make Americans unsafer. Right? And that's what's very important also to recognize about the selfishness of the neocons, of the war party, of the military-industrial complex. Not only are they causing a bunch of problems overseas, not only are they killing, you know, off the kids, the American kids who have to go fight these wars, but also they are making, even though they claim they're making you safer, oftentimes they are making you less safe, because, again, the resentment they breed across the sea inevitably comes over here. Right? And so I'm not saying that you can just avoid all fighting ever in human history, obviously, but there is a level to which we should not try to breed unnecessary resentment. And I think America, once again, in getting involved in the Middle East, will repeat the mistakes of the past. And, you know, I'm very cautious about that. I don't want that to happen. And that's why I, you know, called out the things I do. Let's see here. Sid Highwine for $5 says, can't stand diversity hire Candace Owens, nor Ben identity politics for me, not for thee, Shapiro. Candace loves causing disorder. Ben equals hypocrite. So Sid doesn't like either side of this. That's fine. You know, you're entitled to your own opinion. But let me see here. I did put a poll up here. Okay, and I do have to admit this joke is stolen from my friend Actual Justice Warrior, but I did put a poll up. It says, who do you side with? Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, or a two-network solution?
So overwhelmingly, Candace Owens.
Yeah, we got Candace at 65-66% here. Ben Shapiro 17, two-network solution 17%. That joke is underrated. Okay, but I feel like I guess that does kind of now have to become the focal point of discussion. what's next? I mean, what's next for Candace Owens, for Ben Shapiro, for Daily Wire? Do you think they just hash this out? You know, like I said, just have a debate on it. I feel like again, that'd be good. That'd be best for business and best for, I think, the general conversation and just productiveness of everything that's happened. It would at least put a productive spin on kind of the bad stuff that's happened, right? But at the same time, you know, there's a very real possibility that this ends with Candace leaving Daily Wire, starting her own thing, joining Blaze or some other network. I don't know. But what's your thoughts on all that?
I really hope they're able to hash it out on the Daily Wire publicly for all of us to see, so we can see all their views on everything. It'd be interesting and fun to watch.
Yeah, and get the other hosts involved. Screw
absolutely,
it.
Yeah. Get Michael Knowles to moderate it or something. I don't know, you know. I mean, like, but it'd be great. It'd be great for the Daily Wire. It'd be great content. I mean, let's be honest. This is a big beef going on in conservative media, and I hope it ends well. I don't want to see Candace leave the Daily Wire. I think she's awesome. Right. You know, I think the Daily Wire is great too, but I hope they're able to settle this and water under the bridge and just be able to agree to disagree. And, you know, the Daily Wire should be a place, and media in general should be a place that people can disagree and have discussions. At the end of the day, be friends. Yeah. And be coworkers.
I agree 100%.
You know, we're not going to agree on, no matter who you are, you're not going to agree with everybody. And you got to be able to, you know, emotional issues like this, be able to have good discussion and come to an agreement or disagreement and just settle on that and respect each other's opinion.
Christopher for $5 says they need to just fight it out like during the Napoleonic Wars or Mexican-American War. Are you talking about Israel and Hamas and Gaza? Or are you talking about Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro? Because I don't know. I don't know if I can legally endorse a duel. Okay, but I assume you're talking about the conflict in the Middle East. And he goes on to say, if we really need oil, there's always Venezuela and Trinidad. And there's, by the way, always the oil we have here at home, which we have plenty of it. But, you know, what's the story? Oh, we don't drill because of climate change. Oh, no, there's an energy crisis. Okay, guess we'll invade Iran or something. So you know, many such cases there, many such cases. And by the way, you know, people say, you know, the Iran stuff has to do with oil. I think that's a part of it, but you also look kind of at the deeper levels of this. I know that something like Iran won't accept, is it either the petrodollar or the US dollar as the global reserve currency? I don't know, something like that. So there's many levels to it. And but in oil probably definitely is one thing. But then you take a look at what they did in Iraq, right? We didn't even take the oil. Everyone said it was a war for oil. Oh, you know, we didn't even end up taking the oil. So in many ways, I guess oil is a part of it, but I think there's also a level to which this is kind of just, these wars are kind of just ways to, you know, get the military industrial complex to make a bunch of money, right? Because obviously they profit from war, and a lot of people around this country that, you know, don't live in your neighborhoods profit from war. And, you know, and then what happens in the end? We don't even take the oil, you know, and so, you know, this is what happens. $1 for $2 says Vince wearing heels. No way he's taller than him. Well, the chair is taller, but I think we're about the same.
We're pretty similar in height. The camera would not show that with these chairs, though.
Yeah. But anyways, okay, let's take a look. All right, so I guess we'll play a couple more minutes of the Candace stuff, and then I'll go on, I guess, to just, you know, super chats and stuff, because I think we've basically wrapped up this kind of discussion, but let's go on for a few more minutes here.
Decisions in a highly emotional time that people sit down and have these academic debates. And there are people that are saying, no, it doesn't matter because people are dead, that you need to just choose a side, and that needs to be it. It needs to become tribal.
There's also, I can't help but notice that your views reflect mine, I would say pretty much. I'm an American. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. I also think it was pretty strange. I don't really understand how it happened, but innocents died, and that's awful. And I hated watching that. And I feel so sorry for the Israelis who were killed. However, there's an emotional response that is disproportionate, I think, on the part of some commentators. I mean, our country is being invaded right now by millions of young men whose identities we don't know, who probably don't even like America, and they're now living here. Over 100,000 Americans die every year of fentanyl. I've known a couple. Those are real tragedies. I've never seen anything like the emotion from any commentator around those tragedies as I'm watching about a foreign tragedy. I think that's odd.
I think what tends to happen is, of course, we all have elements of selfishness within us. And so when it particularly pertains to an issue that impacts you, I was strongly speaking out against Black Lives Matter as an organization very early on as a conservative because I understood what the implications were going to be of defunding the police.
Right.
It was an issue that was important to me. I created an entire documentary to talk about this issue.
Yes.
And I held on for a long time, and people began to see that actually I was telling the truth, and now we have more death in inner city communities than we had before.
Yes.
These riots and these George Floyd protests calling for defunding of the police. And I think in terms of this, that's what's also happened is that people that are pro-Israel are pro-Israel, a lot of them, because they have family members in Israel.
I get it.
They have homes in Israel.
Yes.
And so they feel very attached to this issue. And, I was very happy to host somebody who was pro-Israel. He's a pro.
Which is understandable. I just wish that Americans who forget having family who live in America, were as passionate about the things that go on in their own country. It's true.
Israel comedian on my show the other day. And I explained this to him. I said, you are demanding that we have this same response that you are having about what people are saying on college campuses. The rhetoric on college campuses hasn't changed. Did you not remember what they were saying, what professors were saying, the anti-white explicit racism that was happening, and not even just allowed in terms of student protests, but was written into the curriculum at these universities for years. People were learning this actively in school, that whiteness was associated with wrongness. You had college professors that were writing about this need there need to be less white people in America. You can find these articles. They exist online.
They're everywhere.
And that's actually a point I wanted to raise when we were reacting to the Republican debate, but I kind of forgot about it in the heat of everything else, is, you now see at these GOP debates, one of the big questions is, anti-Semitism on the college campuses, which, of course, I don't think anyone should feel unsafe on college campuses, and, things certainly have happened. However, I think the point Candace is raising is that this stuff, like the kind of anarchy on these college campuses, long predates, what's happening right now in Israel and Palestine, right? And it's interesting. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the college campus stuff was never talked about before, obviously, because it's always been a big thing in conservative media, about look at what's happening on the campuses. But you never really saw the Republican Party start to talk about this at their debates when, conservative kids, literally were getting beat. It happens all the time. They get beat up, they get their freaking table ripped over, they get threatened. I mean, I'm sure that is so common on our college campuses. Way more common, by the way, than the stuff with the BDS and Hamas, just as a footnote. But that stuff is way more common, and it's been happening for a long time. And don't get me wrong, there's been some discussion about it, but I feel like that's largely been ignored, right? And then you look at, obviously, the CRT anti-white stuff that's being taught. Again, I'm going to be good faith and say that obviously it has been discussed. I'm not saying it hasn't been discussed at all, but I think it's just interesting how outside of Donald Trump, maybe DeSantis, Vivek, and a few people, you didn't really start to hear Republican politicians call for radical things like defund the campuses, we're going to go after the universities, their endowments, or whatever, until you see the BDS Palestine stuff on the campuses recently, right? And that obviously that's fine, because I want college campus to be a safe place for discussion and free speech, and no, it's a campus, right? No one should feel unsafe on a campus. That's just a fact of the matter. But it does kind of feel like, us conservative kids who have been doing campus politics for years and getting harassed for and all that stuff, they never cared about us. They never cared about white kids. That's again, these stuff is far more prevalent. But I do think that's a good point there.
It seems genocidal. I mean, if you're saying
it is genocidal,
by definition, if you're saying being a certain ethnicity or race is itself a sin and we need less of you, I mean, that is the definition, is it not?
Right. It was an understanding of needing to breed out white people. It was unbelievable what I was seeing, and I was impacted by it because I'm in a biracial relationship and I have biracial children. So you are telling me that my children are going to have to decide between whether or not they are white oppressors or they are Black victims. It doesn't stand for me. So I was attached to this issue, and it was something that I fought for hard on college campuses, and there was no support. There was nobody talking about, well, this is what needs to go. These kids need to go onto blacklists. And by the way, if they did speak that way, I would have disagreed with it because I am pro 1A. I believe in the First Amendment.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too, is the blacklist. I'm not here to mourn or really care that a bunch of like idiot leftists are not going to be able to find a job now. I mean, that it kind of, again, not really any tears lost for that, truthfully. You could make the argument of free speech, but I think institutions to a degree, especially employers, they also, it's whatever. Forget that for a second, okay? But no one ever had this discussion, at least since about the 1950s, about blacklisting communists, right? From employment or whatever, or rabid leftists or Antifa or whatever, and so I think that's the point being raised here, is that, there's okay, you care now, that's good, I guess, but where was the veracity for this stuff before? I don't know, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're just starting to see it now, but where was, like you said, the outrage towards communism, Marxism, everything. And like you mentioned earlier, the violence towards conservatives.
Yeah.
Or even just purely discrimination on college campus.
Which happens like every week.
Yeah, every week.
Every week.
And not even just to your face in class or around campus, but, oftentimes many conservatives, in classes that require you to voice your opinion, feeling discriminated in the grade book.
Well, you're a poli-sci.
I'm a poli-sci.
Right? Okay, you can talk more on that than me, because
you can never, a professor can pretty much say something's wrong if they didn't feel it was argued correctly. But, a lot of times if you were going to issue they didn't agree with, it doesn't matter how good you argued it, even though that should be how it is.
Right.
Is they'll straight up just say, yeah, no, I'm not going to give you the grade you probably deserve.
Right.
They don't like that. And, a lot of these classes, we did a poll in a class a couple weeks ago. It's got 80 or so people in it. It's a political science class. And did a poll on just how conservative or liberal are you? And,
right.
It came down to the basic one, conservative or liberal. You couldn't choose independent. And there's 80 or so people, and I think it came out 80% liberal. That's, I'm okay with being the minority, but we're not
probably
protected.
More conservatives than that, though.
They're scared.
Yeah,
they're scared.
There's a lot of conservatives.
Because they were scared of the professor judging that, I answered I'm conservative in this, anonymous poll on our computer.
Yeah, I had a poll like that at the beginning of class. I took like one public speaking class over the summer, and the teacher, he professor, I got professor, quote unquote, doctor, yeah. Oh, do I? He was a gay guy in the Green Party. That's the long and short of it. How do I know he was a gay guy and in the Green Party? Because every single day he talked about how he was a gay guy in the Green Party. Anyways, long story short, at the start of class, we had to take a survey, okay? Because you wanted to understand the demographics of the class. And, basic stuff, whatever. What's your, how do you feel about this class? Okay, I guess that's fine. But then it gets into some weird stuff, like, what is your political ideology? What is your political party? How is this relevant to teaching a class? I have no idea, but yeah, that is the type of, and what he was doing with that information.
Yeah, and that's a public speaking class.
Well, what I did is I just didn't give him the power. Every single question to troll him, I just prefer not to say. Like even on the questions that were non-political, I was just like, this, you don't need this information. It's irrelevant, really.
Yeah, I had a class last semester that wanted me to give them my Twitter account. In a media class, we wanted to give them my Twitter account so we could interact with each other. I'm like, why do you want my Twitter account? Why do you really want my Twitter account? That's that one was worrisome. And
pretty soon they're gonna come for the Xbox Live, records, and then we're gonna be a communist country.
Oh boy, yeah,
communist country.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember, gosh, in spring I had a professor, and he outspokenly said, because it was a philosophy class, so it was a lot about ideology and beliefs and things like that. And I straight up asked him one time, hey, what's your ideology? Like, where are you? And he goes, well, I voted for Bernie Sanders, but I sat out in both general elections because he didn't win. And I'm like, so like you're Bernie? And he's like, oh no, I'm far to the left of Bernie. And I was like, well, how much farther left do you get? You a communist? And he kind of just shrugged it off, and he didn't answer.
Average college professor.
Yeah, no, average college. That's the most conservative college professor I know.
he didn't vote for Biden though. So
no,
he didn't. He's actually doing our work.
Yeah, no, he said he didn't vote for Biden and vote for Hillary. And I asked why, because Trump's got to be completely opposite of what you.
I actually respect that guy because he's the only like progressive Bernie supporter who actually had principles about.
Yeah, well, he said
being anti-establishment.
He said if I voted for Biden, rare. It's the equivalent, or Hillary, it's the equivalent of voting for Trump. We're not even on the same team. I'm that much farther left than them. And I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Right. All right, so that basically, I mean, we'll do super chats, Q&A, hang out with the chat for a little bit. You guys can get to know our future co-host a little better. But any last thoughts on this Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro situation? Like I said, I will reiterate, in terms of ideology, in terms of principles, I agree more with what Candace is saying. But in terms of the beef, I really just think this comes down to failure to communicate and just could have been avoided. But anyways, your thoughts, right?
Yeah, no, it really seems like something that was extremely avoidable, and I really hope they can settle this. And I'd love to see it publicly. I'd love to see a debate because obviously they're very passionate. Both are very passionate.
It'd be very good, yeah.
It'd be awesome. It would be absolutely awesome. Little Daily Wire backstage with these two hashing it out, and with the difference of opinion. And hopefully it gets resolved. I don't want to see Candace Owens leave the Daily Wire and, joke around a two-network solution. But, I mean, at this point, who knows what happens here? I mean, this is very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. All right, folks, let's get on. Let me see how many super chats we got. Let's take a look here. Okay, we got one. Surfing Cowboy for $5 says, Islam has been at war with Christendom since inception. There's always an excuse to do war. I don't want to fight on behalf of non-Christians, though. Well, that's the thing is that that sentiment, honestly, not a lot, at least in recent years, but that sentiment could be wielded by the neocons to say, oh, let's go conquer the Middle East. But that's the thing is that this is not a crusade, to retake the Middle East on behalf of Christianity, which you could arguably motivate some Christians at least to do. It's instead to bulldoze all faith of any kind in the Middle East and replace it with George Floyd statues and rainbow flags. But any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think of it as like what you were saying, George Floyd statues, rainbow flags, maybe the South Park episode with Van Halen, if you remember that.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Oh, you'll have to see that sometime.
All right, folks, we're now open for super chats, Q&A, etc., etc. We'll go till about maybe 11:20, 11:25. So anything you want to talk about, feel free to do so. But I guess in the meantime, let me scroll some of the regular chat here. Andrew M says Christianity and conservatism will be the most ridiculed and discriminated because these values align with the truth. So true, Andrew M. Elite Mythical says props to co-host today. Well, that's good. You have supporters.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Very good. But let's take... All right. Well, I guess while we kind of browse the chat and stuff, Ryan, what is your origin story in terms of conservatism, I guess? How did you get involved in this stuff? Were you always conservative, et cetera, et cetera? Because I think when I first started these lives, I kind of told that story. So
yeah, my journey with politics didn't start until probably college of actually getting involved in things. But I was always conservative. Some of my early memories.
Some of my best friends are conservative.
Yeah, some of my earliest memories are going on my grandfather's back porch when I was 8 years old and him smoking a cigar and watching Fox News. That is,
that's so right wing.
Yeah, no, it's so right wing. But yeah, no, those are some of my earliest memories of politics and kind of just always interested in it, but didn't really think I'd ever want to get involved in it until about the 2016 election. It was very interesting to me and I kept up with it and it kind of just snowballed into a big interest. And in 2020 and when I graduated high school, I decided to be a poli-sci major and, got really way more involved in than I ever really thought I would have.
And then you met me at a tailgate.
Met Vince at a tailgate. And he said he was from California. And I was like, oh, he's definitely liberal. And then we started talking and I was like, well, maybe not. And he asked me what I was and I told him. And, ever since we've hit it off.
No, because what I said was, I said, oh, so you're a poli-sci major, and I was like prying. I said, which side are you on?
Yeah.
And then that's how it all started.
Yeah, it's always anytime.
So that's a funny origin story.
Oh yeah.
Unlike very often, we did not meet on social media or some mutual thing in politics. We met IRL. We met while we were both touching grass. So, you know,
in a very organic way too. Nothing political.
Nothing political at all. Let's see here. Gator says, "Why did either person take that level of risk?" You talking about us, or you talking about Candace? I don't know. Let's see. Off the corner says, "My vote is for Jaden Daniels." I wonder how this country would function if we put the Heisman House as, it can be like the oligarchy, the Heisman House in charge of politics instead of the people currently running it. I think our country might be better off.
I honestly do too. I think Tim Tebow would make a solid rep.
Yeah.
You know, I think so.
Yeah. All right, Christopher for $5 says, thank you very much, says, "Did you hear about the 15 black kids that killed a white kid in this high school in Las Vegas? Not one kid was arrested and no one was covering it." Thank you for the $5, Christopher. I did not hear about that, seemingly for obvious reasons. Yeah, that, you know, it's not surprising that's not reported, but if that's true, that's horrible, obviously, and prayers to the family. Yeah, that's, wow. I didn't even hear about it.
No, I didn't either. I mean, but why would we? No news network wants to cover that.
Yeah, it's true. Even Fox News.
They're, you know, done.
All right. Let's see here. Elite Mythical says, "Is Miami the capital of conservatism / the GOP?" No. Now, Miami is trending to the right, which is good and optimistic, and I think it's one of the better cities America has left. You know, it's one of the more beautiful, cleaner, relatively speaking, cities, etc. But I'd also argue it's very like intercontinental. You know, it doesn't even really feel like an American city. It kind of feels like a mix of Havana and kind of like European, South American, you know, and there's a charm to it for sure, but I don't know if I'd consider it the American conservative city, but I guess when you compare it to everything else, I mean, maybe it is. Maybe a city where virtually no one speaks English is the most Republican city left in the country.
Yeah, you know, the Republicans are the racists, right?
America moment. Okay, let's get to these other super chats here. Andrew M for 5 Canadian says, "Russia has an alliance with Iran. The pro-Palestine college students are actually pro-Putin sympathizers." Thank you for the 5 Canadian, Andrew M. Libs owned, epic style. How will they ever come back from this? It's over for the libtards. It's over for the libtards. Andrew, you go tell them that they're all gonna melt. Okay, it's gonna be 2016. The girl's gonna be screaming in the streets in the green jacket. This is real. Thank you for the 5 Canadian. Renee for $10 says, "Doing great, Ryan. Tell Vince to get a taller chair for you."
Thank you, Renee. I love you. We're gonna need to get a taller chair.
Well, we're gonna, you know, eventually. Okay, when I decide to not stop taking 10 years to do this, we're gonna set up like a podcast studio in my living room, and it's gonna be a proper setup. But for now, we're kind of just squished in my normal organic setup, and it is what it is. But yeah, we're working on it. Okay, trust the plan. You know, I know I said in about May, maybe April of this year, I said we're gonna start a podcast like this month. That's obviously gone great.
Trust the process; it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I was gonna start one. I was actually gonna start it recently, and then what happened is I went home. I went back to LA for a weekend, and I left my audio mixer for the podcast setup in LA. So I gotta get it mailed back. So everything keeps happening, and then we broke a light, which I gotta get that fixed too. One of the lights broke because it got knocked over and the cord's broken, so we gotta fix the light. So I bought everything for the studio, and then it just Victor Shi continues to meddle in our affairs on this channel, and that's frankly what's going on. Small grading guy for 2 says, "Thoughts on the A&M coaching situation?" You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, Jimbo's gone. I'm actually shocked they did it. I didn't think they'd cough up the money, but A&M's got a ton of it. And I just hope if we fire Billy Napier, they don't poach who we want.
We're not going to fire Billy Napier. Okay?
I mean, do you think we should?
No.
You don't think so?
No, he's first of all, he's doing the Norvell rebuild.
He is.
You got to give him at least 3 years. The recruiting class is still relatively intact. I know we're losing some people, whatever. But if you fire a coach after 2 years, who's going to want to come coach? It's going to be seen as a toxic job. I guarantee you, all the progress that's being built is just going to have to start over again. And so, unless you get some big name coach out there that's like, guaranteed success, I don't think it's a smart idea.
The only two that come to mind that I don't think Florida would ever do it, but the only thing that come to mind, big name wise, Lane Kiffin's the one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I could see Lane Kiffin fitting in well. I don't think the boosters would do it, but
long term, I think that there's a higher ceiling on Napier than Kiffin if you give him the time to build up the program. Because I think Kiffin's kind of like a flashy kind of coach, and so he'll give you results faster. But long term, I mean, I don't know if he can build like a national championship program. Whereas with Billy, I'm not saying he has or he's proven it, but I kind of see the it factor around his kind of mantra and the way he's built the organization institutionally and all that stuff. So I'm not selling yet on Billy Napier.
Okay, you're not selling?
I think he needs an offensive coordinator for sure.
Yeah.
But look, he has a better record in the first 2 years than Norvell. Norvell, I think the COVID year went 3-6 and then 5-7. If we go 6-6, he's better than Norvell. And you're seeing, and it's just like you can't. Who are we gonna? It's gonna be like the Willie Taggart situation. Like
that
who are we gonna replace him with? I don't think that's very smart.
A&M, I mean, I don't even know who they're rumored to get right now. I mean, I saw Kiffin kind of getting discussed with it.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going for A&M though. I think he'll stay at Ole Miss. And who's the Duke coach?
Mike Elko. I don't know if that's the best fit. I don't either. I don't. I feel like at A&M you need someone. I don't know. I feel like he's not big enough for A&M.
Well, you just fired Jimbo. You got to make a splash.
Yeah, I think if Dion didn't just get to Colorado, I think he would be kind of a good thing to send to A&M with all the kind of infrastructure there. But I don't know. Who knows who they get?
Hypothetically, though, speaking hypotheticals, say A&M goes Mike Elko or whatever, and Florida sucks next year, and Billy Napier's canned, and Dion has another good year. Like, not another good year, but 6-7 wins. Respectable for Colorado.
Mm-hmm. I would take Dion here, but he's not gonna.
You don't think he would?
He played for the Seminoles.
I don't think he cares.
There's a lot of places he would go. I just don't think that the Florida Gators or Miami would be one of them. Like I
don't think he cares. I really don't.
I could see him. I don't know.
I could see him with. I could see him right here with Pit Vipers, cowboy hat, gator skin boots.
Oh, maybe.
That'd be insane.
I don't know. But my thoughts on the A&M coaching situation, to answer the question, I'm surprised they actually did it.
I'm shocked.
I didn't think they would actually do it, but it's obviously long overdue. Jimbo was a failure. It's really, I guess it kind of brings up the debate too of, is he actually, and I guess they do the same thing with Lincoln Riley. Like, is he actually a good coach, or did Jameis and also Bobby Bowden handed him the keys at Florida State? What do you think about that? I don't.
It's hard to discount a man's national championship. I mean, it is.
Right.
But he did it with the Heisman quarterback, and they were kind
of. But Ed Orgeron won a national championship, which I'm not comparing the two, but.
That is true. I mean, not that.
That guy at Auburn with Cam Newton, I don't remember I don't remember his name, but.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't think Jimbo's a bad coach, but A&M takes a massive shot at his legacy because that was a complete and utter failure. I mean, that was just bad.
Yeah.
It was over. The firing was overdue.
He couldn't get it done on the field because.
No, they could recruit. They had all the NIL money in the world. They got all the resources, but they just could not get it done on the field. And, I'm sure he'll end up somewhere.
I think it might, too, be his personality, like culture-wise, in terms of building
I think it's outdated.
Culture in the locker room. I don't know, because, he's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, you see that. And even Nick Saban's kind of adapted the way he handles, like, the soft generation, whatever. So culturally in the locker room, that might be part of the reason he just never got it done. I don't know. But thank you for the too small grading guy. Love the college football questions. Frankly, if I could start over, I would skip the politics and I would just do a college football show, to tell you the truth. But anyways, Sid Highwine for 2 says Vivek opened a Fire Ronna McDaniel page. Ever one vote. Let's see.
Gotta see this.
I don't. Okay, I don't think it's what she put in the chat. But yeah, thank you for the 2. That's the first super chat from Sid. Appreciate it. And at least someone is carrying on the spirit of the Deport Nikki Haley petition. I don't think Vivek knows who I am, but I'm going to take credit for that. I'm going to say we're the reason. Okay, everyone who signed, we walked so that Vivek could run. All right, so they took down our Deport Nikki Haley petition, but because of that, Vivek now can start a Ronald McDaniel petition. It's truly the Ninja Turtles meme. Okay, and super chat here. Sam Matson for 5 says Vince has Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction. No comment. Thank you for the 5, Sam Matson. All right, it is 11:22. I guess we'll wrap up soon. Last call for super chats. Last couple minutes here. But let me see what else we got. We need a sports show with you too. Maybe partner with Crane and Company. Dude, I started... Okay, true story. This year, after Texas beat Alabama in week 2, I recorded a whole show about it. Okay? I was going to start the channel. And it was 3 a.m. in the morning, and it was a very impulsive decision. Okay? And then I sat down and I listened back to it, and it was 3 a.m. So whenever it gets late in the night and I'm recording, I just hate everything that I do. Like, I just listen back and like, that sucks, right? So I watched it back and I was like, oh, this is you're kind of rambling. This is not that good, whatever. And then I just decided, I don't know if you really have the time to start a college football channel. And so it got canned, which is disappointing because you think about it, who knows where it could have gone this season.
Oh yeah,
it could have been. It's kind of late to start one now in the end of a season, but
maybe get one started for the coaching carousel.
We could. That's true. That would bring in clicks for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some big jobs that are open right now, and I'm sure there'll be some more to open up.
All right, maybe we should start one.
That'd be a lot of fun. Hey, I mean, sports and politics, those are my two things I love to talk about.
Yeah, it would be an alternative revenue stream too if the politics gets totally demonetized and we get blackballed from everything for agreeing with Candace Owens. We'll just go into sports. Sports.
Like outkick the coverage. You got a little dual outkick the coverage. You got the dual coverage, politics and sports.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, yeah. Well, Ryan is selling me. Maybe like this week we start the college football.
Yeah,
channel.
I love it.
Convenient at the end of the season. Such a great time to start. But,
right before the playoffs on bowl season.
That is true. That is the
best time of year is coming up.
That is true. All right, well, I guess last question, since we're on the topic of sports. Who do you want to see in the playoffs? Like, what's your dream bracket? Get realistic dream bracket.
Okay, realistic dream bracket. Georgia's making the playoff.
Okay.
Whether you like it or not. Ohio State.
Do you think if they lose to Bama, they're still in?
A one-loss Georgia is going to make it in.
I agree.
Then at that point, Bama and Georgia get in.
Yeah.
And I think that's very likely.
I want to see that, honestly.
I think Bama, Georgia, and between Ohio State and Michigan is tough.
Oh, I want to see Ohio State. I don't like Michigan. And just for the record, I do not dislike Michigan because of the cheating scandal. Okay, that adds to it because I can throw tomatoes.
Yeah.
But I just don't like Jim Harbaugh. I don't have. I don't respect the fact that Michigan is the most boring team ever to watch. Hey, let's and then B refuses to schedule any tough out of conference opponents. Okay. Ohio State, by the way, does. They played Oregon. They played Notre Dame 2 times. I remember back in the day, they played USC. I was at that game as a kid.
They played Oklahoma a few years back.
They played Oklahoma. And then Michigan is let's go play one game a year and then sneak into the... So I have beef with Michigan.
Michigan, such a weak schedule.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
And truthfully, just stylistically, I just don't think they'd be a very exciting team to watch. Whereas Ohio State, with that defense and I'd rather see Ohio State.
Oh, I would too. I don't know if they can beat Michigan right now. I don't know if they will.
I think they will.
You think they will?
Yeah.
They haven't in a couple years now.
But I'll tell you the difference is that everyone is pointing out, this year their margin of victory is smaller, whatever. They're built this year to beat Michigan because they're a physical team. They don't have they're not just relying on a quarterback centric offense, which does not work, by the way, that well in the Big Ten late in November, especially, right? They can run the ball and they can play really good defense. Yep. I think they arguably have the best defense in the country. It's definitely top 3, which they have not had the past 2 years. And that's why, you know, Blake Corum just ran for like 1,000 yards in the last 2 games. So I think this year Ohio State's built to beat Michigan, and motivation is going to be an interesting factor because both sides are going to have their own motivations and reasons. But also Harbaugh is a serial choker. That's something we know about him.
But he's not going to be coaching.
That's true. Okay, well,
not
that's
in the regular season.
I slightly favor Ohio State.
I do too.
I hope they win because I don't want to see Michigan in the playoffs.
I hope it's
and again, let me reiterate, not for cheating reasons. I really don't care about that scandal, but it's funny.
Yeah. Georgia, Bama, Ohio State. Michael Penix would be fun to watch in the playoffs.
Yeah. Maybe this is selfish because like USC's not in it, but I don't really want to see Washington or Oregon because neither of them I am that impressed by.
Who else is right there on the border? There's
Texas, if they win out.
Texas, Florida State. Yeah, I'd say
4 teams in. And I think that'd be really cool. The last playoff. I don't like Cinderella stories in the playoffs, for the record. Okay, TCU last year, it pissed me off, okay? You got 4 blue bloods. They all seem like you could all make the argument for why they could make it. Like, I don't see any of those teams getting killed by the other. That's the dream bracket for me at the current moment. All right, last super chat here. $1 for 2 says, free Jim Harbaugh. Again, I like principally, I don't think they should be, you know, putting the guy on the back burner before. They shouldn't be suspending the guy before like they've even decided on a verdict in this whole case. I just think it's funny because I don't like Jim Harbaugh. So that is indeed, yes, my bias, 100%. LSU beat Florida. Jaden Daniels for Heisman. I think Jaden Daniels should be the Heisman. I just don't think it's going to happen because the Heisman voters don't respect actual athleticism or play on the field. It's just, realistically, Matrix does not want us to talk about college football. Okay, we're back. The Matrix doesn't want us to talk about college football. This is so real. All right, is it on? Oh, that's why, because it disconnected from the hotspot. Okay. I bought this hotspot, which is very expensive, by the way, so feel free to super chat to pay for the SIM card because it's ridiculous. Yeah, okay, we're back. Anyways, last super chat here. $1 for 2 says Liberty needs to be in the playoffs, 10-0. They should make a group of 5 playoffs. I'd like to, like, JMU, Liberty. Who else is good in the?
Something got denied, like postseason.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's stupid. Coastal, I don't know who are the
Somebody.
other group. Yeah, but that would be, they need a group of 5 playoff, truly. All right, guys. Thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. Ryan, any last thoughts? You're setting up your channel soon, but
yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. And
we'll do it again.
Can't wait to get back on here.
For sure. All right, be sure to leave a like before you go. Let's get the stream to 200 likes, and we will be live, depending on if this works, okay, and we have a functioning stream. We'll be live either today's Wednesday, tomorrow, or Friday. Today Wednesday?
Today is Wednesday.
Okay, tomorrow or Friday, so stay tuned for that. Again, be sure to leave a like before you go, and until next time, Alpha Moves Only, God bless, have a very good night, and peace.